In a world where the news gets twisted, John and Tom stand tall, never wished it. MAGA hats on, they take the stage. With laughter and facts, they break the cage. Unsanctioned voices feel less and bold, turning the tide, watch the truth unfold. Unsanctioned America, hear their call. With a duo on fire, they'll never fall. From the heart of the right, they bring the fight, lasting through the night, shining light. Oh, debating the nonsense of the woke parade. With every punchline, conservative trade, they tackle the issues with humor and wit. In Unsanctioned America, they won't quit. So tune in tight, let the laughter ignite, as John and Tom clash through the political night. Unsanctioned America, hear their call. With a duo on fire, they'll never fall. From the heart of the right, they bring the fight, lasting through the night, shining light. So tune in tight, let the laughter ignite, as John and Tom clash through the political night. Unsanctioned America, hear their call. With a duo on fire, they'll never fall. From the heart of the right, they bring the fight, lasting through the night, shining light. Oh, together they rise, wear their pride like a crown. In Unsanctioned America, never backing down. Unsanctioned America, hear their call. With a duo on fire, they'll never fall. From the heart of the right, they bring the fight, lasting through the night, shining light. Oh, shining light.
So I guess the real question on everyone's minds is what really happened to that young chef?
That's a good question, Rachel. I guess it all started when Barack tried to have an affair with him. He didn't really like Barack like that. I mean, they just kind of paddleboarded together and shit like that. But then Big Mike got all suspicious.
Who's Big Mike?
Did I say Big Mike? I'm sorry, I meant to say Michelle. Then Michelle got all suspicious that Barack was having an affair with him. So she confronted him.
She confronted the chef?
No, she confronted Barack, but then the chef overheard that Michelle was really a man. And so they called me and asked me if I could Epstein him. And I said, yeah, sure, but I want to be president again. And so here we are.
Welcome to Unsanctioned.
Most people know the name, but how much do they really know about George Soros, the man who spent $1.5 billion reshaping America to reflect his twisted woke ideology? Soros has bankrolled over 100 district attorneys and politicians, enforcing Marxist policies that are tearing this country apart. Millions have gone to support sanctuary cities, defunding police, eliminating cash bail, and reducing sentences for violent offenders. Soros's cronies block border security, while he funds the illegal invasion of our nation, causing chaos and costing innocent lives. Praised by the left as a so-called philanthropist, Soros has used his fortune to dismantle the American way of life. His vision is not of freedom, but centralized control, leaving a legacy of division and chaos. Fortunately, the tide has turned. Forces like President Trump, the MAGA movement, and leaders like Elon Musk are fighting back. Together, they're restoring American greatness and dismantling the woke mind virus Soros tried to impose. The legacy of the Soros name is now failure. Sanity is being restored. The founding principles of America endure, and the best is yet to come.
Another amazing, informative meme from Ramble Rants of the Dilly Meme team, and that is the truth about George Soros, John. You and I both know it. George Soros is an enemy of America.
Certainly, he's not somebody who loves his country and its core values. He's someone who is essentially, he's a refugee. He has no home of his own. In Hungary, he's essentially banned. And so he's not someone who understands what home means, in my opinion. And that's what it feels like to me, that, this is somebody who hates wherever he's at because it's not his place and he's not welcome where he belongs or where he came from. So, that's what somebody does. They destroy what somebody else has instead. Welcome to another episode of Unsanctioned America. We have a great show for you. The other video that we saw was a little joke about Killary Clinton and, explaining to us what happened on that little paddle boat ride that Barack had with the chef, and the chef, who knows what happened, right?
Yeah, I mean, I guess we'll never really know what happened there, John.
Yeah, so, and that was another meme. Who was that meme from? Do you know? I saw it on the internet.
I don't know who it was initially, but I wish I did, because I would love to give them credit, because once again, phenomenal job there. And I want to apologize for the way I sound. Number one, I think I had COVID. I'm starting to get over it. Believe me, the last 2 days I could barely talk. I'm feeling a little bit better now, and I also want to apologize for what happened earlier or yesterday, depending on when this show goes out, because it did start out. We did have some issues with our streaming service, the distribution service we use. We tried to fix it. We tried to get it back. Didn't seem to work. Then Facebook wasn't allowing us to stream twice, I guess, in the same day or something. I don't know what was going on. So you're either going to see this show late on Wednesday night or Thursday night. So anyway,
yeah, I think Thursday.
Happened.
I'll probably see it on Thursday at our regular time, 8 o'clock.
Yeah, I mean, I'm already getting texts from people like, "What happened? What happened?"
Yeah, exactly. So I was looking at it, and a lot of people were watching in early in the shows. So, but this is episode 301 of Unsanctioned America. We have a great show. Let's go over some of these headlines that we're going to talk about tonight. Episode 301, season 3, the second show of season 3.
Yes.
And let me pull these up here. Okay, so we just talked about the 2 intro videos, and we're going to talk. I think one of the biggest thing that's happening right now, or that happened recently, and that we got over between the 2 shows, our first and the second show of this season, is Johnson's re-election for Speaker of the House. I think that was a big point of contention. Are they going to get this done and then be able to certify? Of course. Trump was certified. Of course. The election took place and Johnson won. However, there was one representative that did not play along, I think for good reasons, and good concerns. And as long as he wins, it's fine. Obviously, we wanted to move past it. In the future, we need to, this I think shows us how important these House seats are individually. And we need to make sure that we have a larger majority than a razor thin 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or half a dozen seats.
Yeah.
We need a 20 or 30 seat margin to make sure, because I would expect that there's probably anywhere from 20 to 50 rhinos in Congress at any given time that might try to put a stop to things, right?
Yeah.
So we need that margin. Biden gives the Axis of Evil Medal of Freedom. We'll talk about that. Trudeau comes out of his Canadian closet. We'll talk about that. I think everybody's probably saw his video. Who can we trust and what can we believe? This segment is really just a mind-blowing segment. It has the CIA going crazy, it has the FBI going crazy. It's something that everybody is aware of for the most part. And we're going to talk a little bit about that one, pretty controversial story. Trump security high on people's minds prior to the inauguration. I think that the inauguration is on the top of everyone's mind as well. And Trump security regarding that inauguration is becoming more and more prevalent as we get closer to the date. And I think that we're saying, I mean, after several assassination attempts, you know, I mean, we need to start paying attention, especially when you can't depend on the government to do what it's supposed to do.
Absolutely.
Travel agents see an uptick in demand. This is a pretty funny story. Reptilian CEO says free speech is back. I'm sure you've heard about that. In another segment, we're going to talk about, you know, obviously another cough issue coming up. So just cover your mouth. Lawsuit filed over the Big Easy terrorist attack against the police. We'll talk about that. UHaul is practically going broke in the state of California due to their one-way rentals leaving Cali. And the subway in New York is safe, except for robberies, rape, being burned alive, and stabbings. We'll talk about that. North Carolina has lost its effing mind. If you have not heard about this story, it is absolutely outrageous. Outrageous. It tells you that, listen, the rhino problem is not only a problem here in Florida, it is throughout the United States. It's these people who are bought and sold by lobbyists and special interests. And in North Carolina, you have worthless set of state legislators, apparently, and hopefully they get rid of them. Vote them out. LA fires rage on, and more on this episode of Unsanctioned Florida, episode 301, January 8, 2025. Show number 2 in the season 3. So stick with us. Thank you for joining us. Like and share the show while you can, please. Also, if you've received an invite, make sure you go into your notifications, find them. And if you've been sent an invite to like the show or to like the pages, please accept the invitation to like. It's how you get. Listen, I know that Zuckerberg says that he's a big believer in freedom of speech all of a sudden, but I don't like lizards. And a lizard is not the first thing that I would choose to believe. So in order for you to make sure that you get notifications that the show is on, that you hear things, that your voice is amplified to other conservatives and vice versa, please accept the invitation.
Absolutely.
All right, let's get down to business, Tom. What do we got?
All right, we got a prayer.
All right, let's do it. Lord, wow, we are getting close to this inauguration day. I think that people are so excited for this change that our country is about to go through. There's a lot of news that is concerning. We don't know what to believe, what not to believe. There's only one thing that we can depend on, and that is you. And right now, we pray that you continue to have patience with your with humanity. Have patience with us, because these things are troublesome to us, and it's more and more troublesome the further and further we get away from our relationships with you. And so we pray that you make all of Americans closer to you, you bring us closer to you, and that we begin to understand that there are things that are more important than money and jobs and titles, and that this country was built on the foundation of integrity and hard work and honor. And we pray that you bring that back, that you inspire us to bring that back. And we know that when we do, we'll make you proud. In your son's name, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. All right, let's get into some news, John. All right, John, and like you said, the big news that happened recently was the re-election of Speaker Mike Johnson as Speaker of the House. Kind of crazy because there was a little bit of contention. We heard that there was questions of whether he would make it on the first ballot. Well, guess what? He did.
Therefore, the Honorable Mike Johnson of the state of Louisiana, having received a majority of the votes cast, is duly elected Speaker of the House of Representatives for the 119th Congress.
And as you saw there, it was 218 votes for Mike Johnson, 215 for Hakeem Jeffries, and one other. And we're going to talk a little bit about that one other in a minute here, John. But first off, well, how do you feel about Mike Johnson being reelected as Speaker of the House?
I knew he was going to be reelected. This was not the same thing as Mike McCarthy. Mike McCarthy was essentially, he was removed not just because of what he was doing that was like Johnson. He got removed because he was lying to his own members. Okay, he was essentially making promises that he couldn't keep, and that he maybe had no intention. Right? I'm not an insider. I don't know exactly, but these are the reports of stories and whatever, and what they were saying themselves, that they were deceived. And then many people were saying, "Oh, listen, forget it. We just got to get through it. This is how business is done here. This is what the expectation is, whatever." Well, so Mike McCarthy lost his head. Mike McCarthy was constantly reaching back, harassing people. He's the reason that whole report got filed against Matt Gaetz and whatever. So he was essentially a toxic personality. Mike Johnson is not a toxic personality. People like him. It's not a matter of him being a deceitful or vindictive or toxic personality. It's that he may not be man enough for the job, right? And by man enough, I mean, he may not have the integrity. He can't withstand the pressure from the other side as well as somebody else, perhaps, right? Someone like Byron Donalds, perhaps. But the fact is that he's not as disliked as Mike McCarthy. He was going to make it through. I don't think that was ever in question. You pretty much always had to go and get his votes. And I just figured that he would get it.
Yeah.
Now, there was somebody who didn't play along. Who was that?
That's true, John. That's true. There's one person decided that they were not going to play along with this. And it's really sad. And I'll talk about why it's sad in a minute. But yes, it was this guy. And he said this on the Matt Gaetz show, the new Matt Gaetz show that's on OAN.
Roy, were asked to serve as chairman of the Rules Committee. Would that be enough to get your vote for Mike Johnson?
Oh, no. You can pull all my fingernails out. You can shove bamboo up in them. You can start cutting off my fingers. I am not voting for Mike Johnson tomorrow. And you can take that to to the bank. You know that,
Who are you voting for,
Matt.
Thomas? Who are you voting for?
Now, he didn't say who he would vote for, but I just wanted to mention, too, it looks like Mr. Massie is using, excuse me, I'm sorry. Every time I laugh, I start to cough, but it looks like he's using Ozempic. He's lost a lot of weight, but anyway, this is the thing. I don't think President Trump wanted a big controversial speaker shakeup right before he was going to take office. He brought Mike Johnson along to a UFC fight, on the plane ride with everybody else, with Team America. He wanted to make him feel like part of the team, and he is part of the team. If we want him to get the other congressmen in line and to fight for the Trump agenda, then yeah, he's got to definitely be part of the team. And Massie voting against this just for whatever reason he has. Obviously he was doing it because it was all about himself and nothing else. I'm sorry, I'm not a big fan of Thomas Massie. I like some of the things he does, but I'll never forget how he voted against President Trump on multiple occasions, how he was a DeSantis loyalist who went against President Trump. I just don't have good feelings about him.
I think I agree with some of that. I don't agree. I'm not so offended that he voted against it. I'm surprised that it wasn't closer, and I'm surprised that maybe it only happened one time. I figured it would have been maybe a couple votes, but they would have been quick just to embarrass him, right? To remind him that he needs to be humbled. And I'm not opposed to that as a byproduct, right?
Yeah.
So I think it's okay. I'm not too offended by it. I'm annoyed by Massie sometimes. Listen, I agree with Massie on most things, right?
Yeah.
I don't agree. Here's the thing: on its face, I agree with the premise that a primary should be fought out, no big deal. But the problem is when 80% of the Republican Party, more than 80%, right, are already like, we want Trump.
Yeah.
Right? Let's say if you include everybody, even Democrats, it's still 70%, in a primary. Right? So I mean, don't put up resistance to that, because it's not the politicians. If you want to fight against other politicians, I don't care. I'm not offended. I don't give a damn about Mike Johnson's feelings being hurt. I don't care. It doesn't bother me at all. But when you're resistant to the will of the people, of the American people, that is far more obnoxious to me. And I think that Massie's resistance to that, the will of the American people, because he thinks he knows better. Okay, fine. He's got his principle. He was elected. Okay, fine. it's not a fine line, right? It's more of an art than a science. But, you know, I'm more annoyed with somebody like Roy.
Yeah,
Right?
well, you know, they're buddies, John. These guys are
They're
buddies,
buddies.
so they are both
Yeah.
DeSantis loyalists. And the problem I have with it is this: if 3 or 4 other Republicans had joined Massie, all right, we would be looking at a Speaker Hakeem Jeffries. That's a problem. And you saw the numbers. It was 218, 215, and then 1.
Yeah.
So if you had, you know, a couple more join him in this little protest of his, we would have a big problem right now.
Yeah. And I would say, you know, they could have spared 1 or 2, right? And I'm surprised that they didn't orchestrate that 1 or 2 margin to remind them that, listen, you're holding on, you got a job to do as speaker. This is not about you. This is not about glamour. You're in a very fine line. And, you know, I get it. But here's the thing. I think that the Republicans like that fine line because they don't like to be responsible, right? And when you have set that small of a margin, just, you know, a few seats, a handful of seats, then you can always blame it on that small margin, the fact that you're incompetent or you can't accomplish what your goals are.
Yeah.
They have a lot to accomplish over the next 2 years.
Oh, they absolutely do.
Yeah, and the reason that Soy Boy Roy annoys me so much is because he wants to be loud and obnoxious, and I agree with what he says in principles. What I don't agree with is his timing. He only says it from a safe place.
Yeah.
He never says it like, why isn't he taking it to town with the Democrat? Why isn't he like fighting with the Democrat? Instead, he's talking about, oh, the debt, the deficit. I get it. I agree with you. But you know what? The deficit's not going to be cured over the way that you're fighting. You're not going to resolve the deficit because you can't even handle the power that you have. You know, right? We have a majority right now. They should be rocking and rolling. Get on board with Trump. Go get Massie. Both of you get in the room with Trump. Get convinced. Do your negotiation. Do your little dance. Get back and fight like one animal. You know, like a school of barracudas. Fight like that. Instead, this guy's like on his own. Oh, every once in a while, I want to show that I'm a principled conservative. We know he's conservative, but the thing is, but you're still a wimp because you fight only when you're in a safe place. You're not fighting in the front.
Right.
You're fighting in the kitchen. You don't need warriors in the kitchen. You know, so that's what I don't like about him. Massie, on the other hand, he's full spectrum. He'll fight sometimes in the kitchen, but then sometimes he goes to the front line and he fights in the trenches too. And that I have a more of appreciation, but I do agree. I think it's useless. It's senseless right now to argue with Trump. You're going to give and take, but by and large, the American people have given Trump and by extension, Johnson, a mandate to accomplish X, Y, and Z. So get on board, do those things first, and negotiate in the background, and then you can say whatever you want to the American people when you have a result.
Right, and I'll say this: I'm not a Mike Johnson fan. I'm not either. I'm not a huge fan of Mike Johnson, but
no,
you know, we have to get this ball rolling. We have to start this golden age of America right now, yesterday. We can't have these squabbles. We can't have these little fights that are going to prevent this from happening or stall it or delay it. We need to keep going.
Yeah, I mean, look at the momentum, right? We already added 2 new states and a Gulf to our country. So we added Canada as our 51st state. We added Greenland. You know, I mean, come on, let's go. The Gulf of America. I'm excited. Let's go.
Yeah, it's gonna be the golden age, man. Golden age. Well, you know, we did talk about how it was between Mike Johnson and Hakeem Jeffries, and we were just a few votes shy of having a speaker, Hakeem Jeffries. Hakeem Jeffries came and delivered a speech after the vote. He did get a couple of cheers for some of the things he said, and he got a few laughs for some other things he said.
The American dream possible. We will fight hard for the freedom to vote. The American dream possible.
What'd he say?
We will fight hard for the freedom to vote. The American dream possible.
Fart?
We will fight hard for the freedom to vote. The American dream possible. We will fight hard for the freedom to vote.
Yeah, he said they're going to
Democratic
fart
Party.
hard.
That's pretty much what they've done this election cycle. They farted hard. You know, so I mean, that was the biggest result, you know, when you get a result that you're not expecting. So
definitely a lot of gas coming out of the Democrats the last 4 years, you know, without a
he
doubt.
was being honest.
Yeah. Oh, man. Well, you know, Mike Johnson did win, and some promising things that he's saying. You know, he's saying that he has informed all members of Congress to be prepared to work 24/7 in the next few months to approve President Trump's agenda. This is why we needed him, John, and here he is.
A lot of hard work to be done in a very short amount of time, because remember, we want to deliver this to the president's desk by hopefully the end of April at the latest. And so we've got a lot of work to do between now and then, and there'll be long days and long nights here. But we've already told all the House Republicans and Senate Republicans, be ready to work overtime, and inform your spouses now. This is going to be a tough season, but it'll be worth it in the end for all of us.
Well, you know, and I get it. He comes off like such a nerd. He comes off really, I don't know.
Between
like
a nerd and a used car salesman.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I was going to say an insurance salesman, but, you know, I don't know.
Yeah, that's closer to the truth.
You know, but it is promising to hear him say this.
This is why he kept his job.
Yeah.
This is why he kept his job, because he's on board. He understands the mission, and he's committed to the mission. And I think that's why Trump stayed with him. He stuck with him. He's like, listen, don't F around. I'm gonna support you. Here's what we're gonna do. You're gonna make it happen. This is your job. Make sure that you do your job, right? And I like that, you know, people who say that Trump doesn't like diversity or anything. There is probably no men more different than Mike Johnson and Donald Trump. Right? One is smooth. This one is it's funny to watch him, right? He's so nerdy, it's funny to watch him. Now, these two guys, he's just give it to him straight. You're here because I believe your word that you're going to make these things happen as Speaker of the House. Make it happen on your side. I'm going to make it happen on my side in the executive branch. Let's go, right? And he's giving him a chance. I appreciate that. This is a business. This is a manager. And you know, so as much as I don't like Mike Johnson, I'm not a fan of Mike Johnson. I respect him. I think he's probably a very nice man, a decent man, a nice guy, whatever.
Yeah.
He's just not to my liking, not my flavor of Baskin Robbins. But as a manager, as a CEO, I know exactly what Trump did here. I know why he gave him the confidence. You know, a lot of people were asking, why would he support Mike Johnson? Why? I know exactly why. Because you got to give the guy on your team a chance before you start drafting new players, right? You have to give them a chance. They're on the team. They know the system. You know, give them a chance to carry the ball. And if they fumble, well, then you have that. But you got to give them a chance. So that's what he's doing here. And he stuck his neck out for him. So Johnson has a lot of reason to be loyal to Trump, a lot of reason, because there's no way that Mike Johnson would have won again if Trump went against him.
Yeah, it's true. So good thing that we got him, I think. And I'm glad to see that they're going to move this agenda forward, because we definitely need to.
Yeah, so am I.
Meanwhile, we have Biden and his own agenda. He was giving out presidential medals of freedom, and he was giving them out to everybody, John.
This is such a disgusting story.
He gave them out to Bono from U2. He gave it to Michael J. Fox. He gave it to Denzel Washington. And he also gave it to Hillary Rotten Clinton.
And worse.
Yeah, and here's that.
Oh, here it is. Yeah.
Hillary Rodham Clinton.
Terrible, man.
It's painful to watch.
What a slap in the face to Americans. A slap in the face.
The Presidential Medal of Freedom is awarded to Hillary Rodham Clinton. Hillary Rodham Clinton is guided by the Methodist Creed, do all the good you can.
Now, hold on, John. I want to rewind this a minute. I just noticed something. I want to see if you notice it too. Who's that in the right-hand corner? Is that who I think
Mitt Romney.
It is Mitt Romney. Yes, sir. It sure is.
Holy cow.
Yep.
Wow.
The Presidential Medal of Freedom is awarded to Hillary Rodham Clinton. Hillary Rodham Clinton is guided by the Methodist Creed, do all the good you can in all the ways you can. As a lawyer, she defended the rights of children. As First Lady, she fought for universal health care and declared women's rights are human rights. As Senator, she helped New York rebuild after September 11, 2001. As Secretary of State, she championed democracy worldwide, and her nomination for president broke barriers and inspired generations. Through it all, her career has been dedicated to an eternal truth. America's ideals are sacred, and we must always defend and live by them.
Enough of that. Enough of that.
My God!
I love the little speech they wrote, to admire Hillary and give her all these props. It's just unbelievable to me that they would go ahead and do this, and that Mitt Romney would be up there clapping along for her. Just
I'm not surprised.
What a rhino!
I'm not surprised.
What an absolute total rhino! And we've documented that before on the show, but he is just the absolute worst. How dare he call himself a Republican?
Here's the funny thing. This Medal of Freedom is supposed to be like the highest. It's the highest civilian award that the United States can bestow upon one of its citizens. I don't even know if it's only citizens, right? I would imagine that it is, but under the Biden administration, I don't even know that Hillary is a citizen. And they were saying that she has promoted democracy everywhere. Where did she? Look what she did in Libya. She destroyed, through her policies, she totally destroyed Libya. Now it's a terrorist hell. It's like Afghanistan. She set Libya back hundreds of years into the dark ages she put them. I mean, and she's promoted democracy everywhere, but where? In the United States, where she tried to steal an election? How can they say that? It's such a slap in the face to Americans, to voters, that she is promoting democracy when she tried to steal an election. Oh my God, it's outrageous. It's outrageous. It's just, I'm not surprised.
Bro, I'll just say one word, Benghazi.
Benghazi. I mean, yeah, she allowed Americans to die for one of our ambassadors to be dragged through the streets and killed. I mean, it's grotesque. It's grotesque.
But never to be upstaged.
She's not even.
But somebody even worse got one. Would you believe it?
Yeah, if that's possible. Did everyone hear that? We spoke over that,
Tom. The Presidential Medal of Freedom is awarded to George Soros. Born into a Jewish family in Hungary, George Soros escaped Nazi occupation to build a life of freedom for himself and countless others around the world. Educated in England, he settled in America as he became an investor and philanthropist, supporting key pillars of open societies: rights and justice, equity and equality, freedom now and in the future. His inspiring generosity reminds us all of our capacity and our obligation to stand up to the abuse of power and to be guardians of democracy and all people yearning to be free.
Absolute garbage. That was Soros Jr. who went to go get the award for Soros. I guess he couldn't be bothered or wasn't in good enough health to show up to receive the award himself. But we did play that video at the front of the show just so you could be reminded of who Soros really is and not what they had to say right there on who he was.
I mean, just to understand, this is the character of Biden. Biden has demonstrated the level of low quality character that he has his entire, not just as a father, right? Which is the mark. It's the mark of character for any man is the quality of your children. And obviously the quality of his children are horrendous. Okay. He's got a crackhead son. So he also gave the award. So but he's demonstrating again, his level of character. Jose Andres, there's this guy, I don't know, some cook or whatever he is. But this guy was in pictures with the wannabe assassin of Trump.
Yeah.
The guy apparently had a relationship with the wannabe assassin of Trump, the guy who was Ralph, right? You're going to make an award. You're going to give a Medal of Freedom to a guy who's in pictures with the attempted assassin of the president, of the incoming president? I mean, let's say that the guy, he deserved the medal up until that day. I'm sorry, you lost it, right? Because this award is the highest honor that the United States bestows upon its citizens, You would think that I'm sorry, you're disqualified. You're friends with an assassin. But not in the Biden administration. That's exactly who would get an award. I mean, it's just incredible. And then you have Hillary Clinton, and this guy. It's just gross. I mean, they also gave it to the fake scientist, Bill Nye, right? So Bill Nye got one. So I mean, it's just he turns everything into a joke. There's some good people that got it. I think that Lionel Messi got one. But what has he done? Listen, Lionel Messi is the most decorated player in the history of soccer, but he's not from the United States. You know, I mean, why? What did he do? What has he done for the United States? He came here to play. He came here to play soccer. So this award is just like a groupie souvenir for the president. That's what this is. I hate that. I mean, it's an embarrassment.
Well,
by the
I
way,
see it as a big middle finger, especially Hillary Clinton and George Soros. A big middle finger to the American people. But you know, Lionel Messi. He didn't show up for his award, by the way.
Yeah, he didn't show up for the award, and I wouldn't have either, man. You know, I mean, not that I'll ever get it, but just saying, I wouldn't have showed up. If somebody invited me, I would have. The hell no.
No, not at all. Well, we did have some good news drop here recently, John. It's Trudeau. It's Trudeau.
It's Trudeau, huh?
Yeah.
So he came out of the closet of prime minister, acting like if he was somebody who belonged in this office. Clearly, he did not. And do we have a video of him resigning? I think he cried.
Absolutely. We have it right here.
We should send him a box of unsanctioned tissues.
So last night over dinner, I told my kids about the decision that I'm sharing with you today. I intend to resign as party leader, as prime minister, after the party selects its next leader through a robust, nationwide, competitive process. Last night, I asked the president of the Liberal Party to begin that process.
He just sounds so, I don't even know what to say.
Yes, I know what he sounds like.
Yeah.
I know what he sounds like.
You know what he sounds like. But,
yeah.
you know, all it took was a couple of tweets, threats that we were going to purchase Canada and make it the 51st state, and he's out. He's out. He's gone. I'm sure the Canadian people are cheering in the streets.
I mean, they should be, but I don't know. I don't have a lot of faith in the Canadian people. I think that they're super nice, but when you're so nice, it's like, you know, okay, I have this cat. My oldest daughter has this cat. Okay, the cat still lives with me, but it's my oldest daughter. My daughter's, you know, in Seattle, but she's got this cat that she got when she was a kid. Okay, I still have the cat. This cat, before we had it neutered, okay, which I mean, this is a long time ago, but regardless, we had this cat. The cat was like the tomcat of the neighborhood. Okay, this cat would go out, disappear for 3 nights, come back with all kinds of battle scars, but you know that there were kittens being made in my neighborhood from this cat, right? This cat, after when we got it, now we have the cat today. But the cat was a ferocious cat. This cat was a champion in the neighborhood. You know, the Oaks is a big neighborhood, right? And this cat was the champion of the neighborhood. You could tell, you know, because cats, when they're no longer the dominant cat, they get kicked out, they disappear, right? So thank God we got the cat neutered, fixed. The cat stayed with it, still with us almost 20 years later. So anyways, but when you look at that cat now, this cat is like a Justin Trudeau. Okay, he is completely neutered. He's completely docile. The cat is a sweetheart. Actually, it's not Justin Trudeau. He doesn't deserve that. He's a good cat, and that's what's going on here. I mean, he's just completely, you know, they're gone. There's nothing there, and it's just things are crazy, man. The world is going crazy right now, and you know, there's men who are like cats, tomcats, and there's men who are neutered, you know,
or wishing they were.
Yeah, or wishing they were trying to get it done. Yeah. And that's what Trudeau is. Trudeau's a neutered cat, you know. That was never
living champion. Through some crazy times, John.
Yeah, we are.
And like I've said before, we have some serious mental health issues going on in the United States of America. Well, we talked about on the last America show this Cybertruck bombing, or it wasn't really a bombing, but it exploded outside the Trump Hotel in Las Vegas. This story was fascinating. It took the internet by storm. It was all over X for days on end. And Sean Ryan's podcast was talked about so much that it became the #1 podcast for the month of January so far. I mean, it beat out Joe Rogan. But anyway, after he had done
Sean
this
Ryan,
show,
by the way, for a little bit of background, Sean Ryan is a guy who has a podcast. He's a bald guy. The guy was a former special operations guy, and that's who he has on his show. He's got a whole bunch of special operations. They talk about national security. They talk about the military. They talk about special operations and just all kinds of cool guy stuff, right? For the most part.
Yeah, absolutely.
And but it's a famous show. It's been growing and growing and growing. All of a sudden,
Sam Shoemate comes on the show and says that he received an email from the alleged Trump Tower bomber, or the explosion guy, the Cybertruck explosion, whose name is Matthew Livelsberger. Supposedly he got this email a couple of days before Matt Berg, which he called himself online, did this deed, and a little explanation came about why he did this, at least from his point of view. And here's a little clip from that show that talks about this.
I get a well, it started off as comments. So when you have a big Instagram account, you're going to miss a lot of messages because people message, go to hidden messages and everything else. You miss a lot of stuff. Well, I kept seeing this comment on recent posts that I put in there, and it was from this burner account that said, "Hey, check your DMs, check your DMs, check your DMs." So I go in there and try to find it. There's no message from this guy, hadn't come through or whatever. And then he messages again once that message was opened up. And I said, "Hey, your previous messages haven't come through. What do you want to tell me?" And he said, "What I'm going to send you," now these are literally his words, "what I'm going to send you is going to change the course of humanity." That was his phrase, change the course of humanity. Okay. A little bit dramatic. I get these messages all the time. People have this big story they want to tell. They want to expose their command, whatever. I take everything with a grain of salt until I have evidence and proof. So this guy is insistent. He tells me that he is a 18 Zulu who I've spoken to before, and he really needs to get this stuff to me. And then he talks about you. He says, "I need you to get me in contact with Sean Ryan." I'm like, dude, I don't know Sean Ryan. I'm not that big, but he's insistent that I get him diverted to media sources, says go to Fox News, whatever else. And I said, "All right, tell me what you got." So I give him my Proton email account, give him my signal number, and he reaches out immediately. And I'm going to read this initial message for you because this doesn't have names or anything else on it, but this was his message on Sunday. He reached out and said, like I said, this last Sunday, he said, "Sending with a VPN active on Wi-Fi only. Do not message me. I will send out updates via both Signal and email, but trust me, you're going to want to be involved." Well, first of all, no, I didn't want to be involved. Anyways, and then, so I didn't message. I responded back to his original Instagram message, and I said, "Hey, I got your message on Proton Mail." And he said, "Cool, delete this." So I deleted it. That's how I ended up getting this message on Tuesday. So the message that this right here, this manifesto, if you want to call it that, came in on Tuesday. And when I started reading this, my initial take was, okay, this is off the deep end. It's bonkers. I can't validate or verify any of the stuff in this manifesto. Mm-hmm. And I told him that in a subsequent email. And I'll read that to you later, my response to him. And once again, my response to him elicited, "Hey, get me in contact with Sean Ryan, Fox News," and he even said Pete Hegseth. "Get me in contact with Hegseth." And I'm like, dude, I don't have the incoming Secretary of Defense's phone number. Sorry, bro. That's the last time I talked to him. So yesterday morning.
What date was that?
That was Tuesday. That was this Tuesday. So we're Friday now. That was 3 days ago.
So
the day before.
30th?
Yeah, the day before the attack. I dismissed this stuff out of hand.
The 31st. It was on the 31st.
Yes. In fact, I posted something on my... I told your producer about this as well. But this was a post I made on Twitter. I was just trying to be humorous, off the cuff. It was I didn't mean anything about it. I was just being humorous for my audience. And I said, my inbox was especially eventful today. Allegations of war crimes, government anti-gravity technology, and fears about being tracked and watched by the feds. It's always, the world is ending and I have this information that needs to get to the media, and never, how you doing, brother? Everything all right? I was just playing off of a meme. It was just supposed to be a joke. That was the body of his email that he sent me. And I didn't think anything about it. I didn't know who Matt Berg was, Matt Livelsberg, or anything else. He told me who he was in the email. He pointed me to his LinkedIn account. I didn't know any of this stuff. And I was just kind of being humorous with my audience. Like, I get these crazy messages sometime.
Yeah, so that's just part of this. And this interview went on for a long time. The clip itself, the initial clip that I cut it down to about 4 minutes there, was 11 minutes long. It did go over the email that Sam Shoemate got sent. And Sam Shoemate, for people who don't know, he has a very popular Instagram account. He is on X. He is a former CIA guy, and he takes in whistleblowers. So whistleblowers will send him stuff, and he will, try and get it out there and protect these whistleblowers. But anyway, this is the email that was sent to Sam Shoemate.
Can you imagine the level of surveillance that he's under?
Yeah.
The government.
Well, they said that as soon as he went on Sean Ryan's show with this, that he started getting calls from the feds, from the CIA. So, yeah, this is the email. This is what it says. It says, in case I do not make it to my decision point or onto the Mexico border, I am sending this now. Please do not release this until the 1st of January and keep my identity private until then. First off, I am not under duress or hostile influence or control. My first car was a 2006 black Ford Mustang V6 for verification. What we have been seeing with drones is the operational use of gravitic propulsion systems, powered aircraft by most recently China and the East Coast, but throughout history, the U.S. Only we in China have this capability. Our OPCENT, or Operations Center location for this activity, is in the box below, and the box that he references is Area 51. China has been launching them from the Atlantic from submarines for years, but this activity recently has picked up. As of now, it is just a show of force, and they are using it similar to how they use the balloon for Signet and ISR, which are also part of the integrated comm systems. There are dozens of these balloons in the air at any given time. The so what is because of the speed and stealth of these unmanned aircraft. They are the most dangerous threat to national security that has ever existed. They basically have an unlimited payload capacity and can park it over the White House if they wanted. It's checkmate. USG needs to give the history of this. How are we employing it and weaponizing it? How China is employing them, and what the way forward is. China is poised to attack anywhere in the East Coast. I've been followed for over a week now from likely Homeland or FBI, and they are looking to move on me and are unlikely going to let me cross into Mexico. But won't, because they know I am armed and have a massive VBID, which is, a car bomb. Right. I've been trying to maintain a very visible profile and have kept my phone, and they are definitely digitally tracking me. I have knowledge of this program and also war crimes that were covered up during airstrikes in Nimruz province, Afghanistan in 2019 by the admin, DOD, DEA, and CIA. I conducted targeting of these strikes for over 125 buildings. 65 were struck because of civilian casualties that killed hundreds of civilians in a single day. Used for continued strikes after spotting civilians on initial ISR. It was supposed to take 6 minutes and scramble off aircraft in CENTCOM. The UN basically called these war crimes, but the administration made them disappear. I was part of that cover-up with US FORA and agent redacted name of the DEA. So I don't know if my abduction attempt is related to either. I worked with General Miller's IO staff on this, as well as the response to Bala Murghab. And then he references a commander who is also redacted that could validate what he's saying. You need to elevate this to the media so we avoid a world war because this is a mutually assured destruction situation. For vetting, my LinkedIn is Matt Berg or Matthew Livelsberger. An active duty 18 Zulu out of 110. My profile is public. I have an active TSSCI with UAP, USAP access. And that's the email. And like I had said before, Sean Ryan and Shu there were both saying that they were contacted by the feds, contacted by the CIA, wanting to know more about this email, what was said, what they were going to say about it. Just crazy stuff, John.
I mean, but everything was put out already. I mean, what's the point of them I guess making show of force or whatever? Yeah. But here's the bottom line of the email. There's so much here to unpack that you may want, like, what is important here? And what's important here is, number one, what we said on this show several weeks ago. Okay. When we were talking about the Chinese balloons, we were talking about the drones, we were talking about all this stuff. The United States government has technology that they'll never show us. Okay, we will get access to it in 30 years from now because we're thinking anti-gravity. That's, oh, wow, that's the bee's knees, right? Anti-gravity, that's like, oh, and this guy here, this 18 Zulu is a special operations guy, right? This guy's his mind is blown by what's going on and by the danger. Well, yeah, I know that. Yeah, that's how it is. The United States government harbors, it hides, it contains like the technology that we couldn't even imagine today. So they hide it, and then when will it come out? When it's more able, when we're more able to digest it, is when it gets called up. Yeah. Okay, can you imagine stealth technology in like World War II? Right? I mean, they didn't have radar then. So I mean, that's they're way ahead of us. And so for you to be surprised, don't be surprised by the technology. Believe me, already, if they have working gravity defying vehicles, they have something else that they're developing that's even beyond that. Okay. The problem here is that China has the same stuff. And now we're in a situation like we were with the Soviet Union, where we had nuclear bombs and nuclear bombs. You launch yours, we launch ours. All right. And mutual destruction occurs. And so I think that's the scary thing, is that because of especially the 8 years of failed Obama policies, right? You have 4 years of the biggest moron on the planet being the president, a guy who wasn't even the president. He had his staff, and his staff was nothing but a DEI clown show. We are at a military disadvantage on the regular armies. There's no comparison. We will smoke China. There's no comparison in terms of planes, boats, tanks, everything. There's no comparison. Not only do we have more of it, but what they have is junk. But now all of a sudden they've created this equalizer, which is supposedly this object, a gravity-defying object, and now they're at heads with us. That's not in a position that we should be in. And I wouldn't be 100% secure in the idea that this wasn't shared with them, because how would China get ahead so quickly? How would they catch up so quickly? And I'll tell you why, because they're spies. That's their chief military objective, is to spy. It's not even to build tanks or planes or none of that stuff. They could be building more and better. Their number one chief objective is to gain the intelligence so that they can catch up to us. And we have a president who's completely sold out to the Chinese. We just saw pictures of him with his son talking to, what's his face? The leader of China. So that's the biggest danger here. The other thing is, you can't even trust our own government. We can't trust our own government. We can't trust them to tell us the truth. We can't trust them that they're not doing the wrong thing. Normally, I think for the past 100 years, every American would say, do you trust the government? Maybe. Okay. But do you think that the government's going to do the right thing and protect you? Yeah, probably. Do you feel the same way today in 2024 and 2025? No, not at all. I don't believe that the government has my best interest. I think that they could care less. They could not care any less about me. They don't care about my family. They don't care about my kids. They don't care about my well-being. They don't care about my financial opportunities. What they care about is control and power and consolidation and stability of their power. So they're willing to make a trade with China. They're willing to give China, listen, here's the bottom line. This is the scariest thing. The United States, the bureaucracy, the people, the deep state is willing to give China the weapons to match us so that we can continue spending billions of dollars in a arms race. And that's how all these companies continue to make the money that they're making so that the arms race can continue, which would have been put to rest, because what Trump would have done if none of this was happening, right? I would imagine that Trump's instincts, his previous acts would point to the direction that he would continue to develop power and stay ahead of everybody else. But you wouldn't spend more than you need to. And you're sure as hell not going to spend $20,000 for a golden hammer or a golden toilet seat or anything else of the crazy kind of crap that the Department of Defense does.
No.
And now we're continued into that. Now they have us by the hamstrings because, now we're in an arms race with China all of a sudden, which was the same position that we were when we were fighting the communists against the Soviet Union. So get ready. Listen, all you Gen Zers, all you millennials, all you whatever comes after Gen Zers. Okay, you better get ready. You better stop putting that lipstick on. You better get some seriousness to you, because at one point in time, you may find yourself protecting your family.
Yeah, absolutely, John. And, you do have a good point there when you talk about China and spies. I mean, look how easily one China spy infiltrated one of our congressmen there. I mean,
yeah,
unbelievable.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Yum Yum. We have that's not all. Yum Yum's the tip of the iceberg, right? There's been a whole bunch of spies caught here, and we have Chinese police stations from the Chinese Communist Party setting up house here. Why is that allowed? How would the CCP, the Chinese Communist Party, ever be successful in setting up stations here like that without our supposedly more sophisticated, more superior technology, more superior processes than some backwards, it was a third-year country 50 years ago. What happened? We created China. And now it's time to put China back in its place, in my opinion. I know that sounds harsh, but the fact is, I would never trust the CCP with the future of my family or my country.
No.
And if you don't believe me, which is fine, just go ask anybody from an Asian country how they feel about China and how safe they feel with China as being the dominant figure in Asia.
Bro, all you had to do was go to a Chinese restaurant during COVID and see how well they protected themselves because they didn't trust their own government and what they unleashed upon the world. I mean, I remember going to the Chinese restaurant and they had plexiglass everywhere. They had like a little drop box, like a chute, like if you were in jail, and they to give you the food. It was crazy. It was crazy. But
because they knew where it came from, and they knew exactly what China's capable of doing to people.
Yeah, absolutely. And these thoughts, John, these things that we're talking about, brings up a lot of other questions. And these things posed by General Flynn and former DOD official Mark Vargas, who are calling on President Trump to cancel the inauguration ceremony and conduct a private one due to the massive risk of a terror attack or some kind of attack against President Trump. Here they are.
The federal government has already proven that they cannot protect President Donald Trump. So I agree with General Flynn. I think there's got to be a scaled down inauguration because the number one priority is to ensure that President Trump safely takes the oath of office. And can he do that effectively in Washington, standing on the west front of the Capitol with all of these threats? I don't think so.
Well, I hope the president will think about this seriously.
First of all, you said something earlier that I absolutely disagree with. That inauguration needs to happen because I booked flights already. I'm not going to DC to just watch nothing. No, I'm I'm gonna go watch the inauguration. That's gonna be my first ever presidential inauguration. I voted for the first time in a presidential election in 2024, and I want to see the inauguration. If that means the president needs to survive a few more assassination attempts, then so be it. It's God's plan.
I have to admit that I have mixed emotions about it.
That's just dumb.
That one guy on the right, that is George Behezy, and we've shared. He's a citizen journalist who's on X. He's very good at what he does. Shares a lot of relevant things, and we share a lot of what he posts on the show. But yeah, I fear for President Trump. I'm mixed about it because yes, I want to see him have that grand inauguration. I want to see him get the inauguration he deserves. But at the same time, we see what's going on. We've seen these drones off the East Coast. We see that they tried to take his life twice during this election. We saw the terrorist attack in New Orleans and the Cybertruck blow up outside of Trump Tower in Las Vegas. I'm worried, John. I'm worried about him.
So I get it. I'm worried also. I absolutely agree that there's a danger. I don't put it past anyone. Certainly, I don't put it past China to try to assassinate the president. I don't even put it past the DOD to assassinate the president, or the CIA, or the FBI, or any of the deep state three-letter agencies. I think that it's a valid concern. But we talked about it in the prep. What were to happen if Trump were to have a private inauguration and then he gets assassinated? What level of trust would we have in anyone, in anybody in the United States government? What we might as well have civil war. The entire thing would implode.
Yeah,
the entire nation would implode. Now, I'm not saying it's any different if they have a public inauguration and there's an assassination attempt or some kind of terrorist attack, and we're to lose President Trump. I hate the idea that we're even talking about this. Yeah. But the fact is, let's say that were to happen, at least we would see it. Not that we can believe who did it, not that we would believe what the government said about what happened, but we would see what happened. There would be a certain level of awareness. And what we don't want and what we don't believe right now is anything that happens in the dark. So I think it needs to be public. I think that you already know that there's a danger. If we can't prevent a terrorist attack for a presidential inauguration, shut the whole thing down. And I'm not talking about the inauguration. I'm talking about the government. Forget it. Get rid of the FBI. Get rid of the ATF. Get rid of the CIA. Get rid of all these people that have not been doing their jobs to the extent that now we can't even have an inauguration from our president. You know, I mean, it's more reason. If we can't protect the president with the billions and billions and billions of dollars that we spend through these agencies that are law enforcement agencies, then what are we doing? They need to all just disappear. Then get back to doing the basics in the Constitution. Let's allow the local police to handle those things. Let the, if you want to create a presidential security force, do that. But we can't allow these deep state actors, these deep state agencies now to be in control of everything that happens. We saw on this show, if you watch from our first show to the last, we've covered the entire narrative. We remember when we had the video where we had all of the news reporters saying the same thing, one thing after another, one station after another, one reporter after another. They're all saying the same thing. We can't trust the Matrix to take care of us. So, we need to now be hyper aware of what's going on. I'm not saying be a conspiracy theorist. I'm not saying that anybody's out to get us all. I'm not saying that, I'm not saying believe in contrails, flat earth, whatever. Believe in whatever you want. The point is, if the government says it, I would not trust it. I'm not saying that they're wrong. I'm just saying I wouldn't trust it. Right? I'm saying that I'd have to see it with my own eyes in order for me to trust anything the government says. I would trust my neighbor before I trust the government. And I don't even know the neighbor that lives over there. So, I'm just saying, we're in a precarious situation. I think this is why we need to depend on the things that are always there for us. The American spirit, right? The American Constitution, and God, first and foremost. And those are the three things. We need to take those things because those are the values that create societies that last here in the United States. That is what has caused us to last. It was our faith in God. It was our sense of honor and dignity and integrity. You know, the way that we thought that the government was operating, that our leaders were operating under, right? And that we were operating under, but they were not. And then just our Constitution, of course, the laws that were written by the founders go back to the basics.
Absolutely. All right, John. So before we go to some other stories from across the nation, we have this excellent message from Team Trump.
Done forever.
He is done.
The end of this Trump
There'll be
era.
new faces and new voices. The final chapter of Donald Trump.
I don't know what the future of this party can be.
The movement we started is only just beginning.
The entire system went after
Mar-a-Lago was raided by FBI.
New York indictment.
A sweeping indictment in
Donald
Georgia.
Trump says he's been indicted again.
I was shot with a bullet that pierced the upper part of my right ear.
but he never stopped fighting for you.
I will never stop fighting for you, your family, and our magnificent country.
And we will win, win, win. We're going to win, win, win.
Thank you, President Trump, for fighting for us. The greatest political comeback in American history.
Donald Trump has been elected president.
Now, it's time we fight for you.
The golden age of America, that's what we have.
The best is yet to come.
If Donald Trump wins, I'm going to be out of the country.
Get him out.
Listen, if he wins, he won't have to worry about immigration. We'll all go back.
Get him out of here.
I will move to Spain.
Get the hell out of here.
Where would you go? Canada.
Bye-bye. Bye.
I'm 100% moving to Canada. I love Canada.
Bye-bye, darling.
I'd be an expatriate.
Bye-bye.
Trump win, I'm moving to Africa.
Bye-bye.
If any Republican gets nominated, I'm going to move to Canada with my entire family.
Thank you very much for coming. Appreciate it. Bye-bye.
Maybe it's time for me to move.
Bye-bye. Okay?
Reserving my ticket to get out of here if you win.
Bye-bye. See you sometime.
I have a house in Spain that is going to be ready right after the election.
Bye-bye. Good luck.
Panama.
Bye. Bing.
Siberia.
Bing. Bye-bye.
Nova Scotia.
Bye-bye. Enjoy yourself.
I'm definitely moving to Canada.
Bye-bye.
Straight to hell.
Goddamn right.
Oh, Iceland.
Bye-bye.
France.
Bye-bye.
Asia's pretty cool.
Bye-bye. Have fun.
Like a mental hospital for a while.
She's an MRF. What's that? Mentally retarded female.
I would move to the Caribbean.
Bye. Enjoy yourself.
Bahama.
Go have a good day. Bye.
White.
Bye-bye.
I've always wanted to live in Italy.
That's it. Bye-bye. Wave goodbye.
And they're all still here.
Bye-bye.
John. They're all still here.
Bye-bye. Bing. Bye-bye. You know, that's hilarious. I mean, these guys, imagine if they did leave and they all went to Canada, and now Trump is talking about Canada being the 51st state. It's such a great, where would they go next?
Or
Greenland. They go to Greenland,
yeah.
And then we buy Greenland. I mean, it's funny. And one guy says, I'm not going to be a patriot anymore. I doubt that guy was ever a patriot.
Yeah.
Yeah, these guys should leave. They should leave.
You're
They
not a
should go to
patriot
Europe.
if you say that. So, I mean.
Yeah, the funny thing is that let these guys go to Spain or any of these European countries and then do the type of crap that they do here, and let's see how long that lasts before they end up going to jail.
And I hope that, and I think that the American people at this point don't believe a word that they say, because they do this every election cycle. They say that if the Republican wins or Trump wins, they're out of here, they're going to move, and they never move, they stay. So, and I think people realize,
Nobody cares.
The majority of people realize now that they're full of crap. But anyway, here's another guy, and we're going to judge whether or not he's full of crap. Mark Zuckerberg. He says that he is bringing back free speech to Instagram and Facebook and replacing fact checks with community notes. Here, let's listen to what he has to say, John.
Hey, everyone. I want to talk about something important today, because it's time to get back to our roots around free expression on Facebook and Instagram. I started building social media to give people a voice. I gave a speech at Georgetown 5 years ago about the importance of protecting free expression, and I still believe this today. But a lot has happened over the last several years. There's been widespread debate about potential harms from online content. Governments and legacy media have pushed to censor more and more. A lot of this is clearly political, But there's also a lot of legitimately bad stuff out there. Drugs, terrorism, child exploitation. These are things that we take very seriously, and I want to make sure that we handle responsibly. So we built a lot of complex systems to moderate content. But the problem with complex systems is they make mistakes. Even if they accidentally censor just 1% of posts, that's millions of people. And we've reached a point where it's just too many mistakes and too much censorship. The recent elections also feel like a cultural tipping point towards once again prioritizing speech. So we're going to get back to our roots and focus on reducing mistakes, simplifying our policies, and restoring free expression on our platforms. More specifically, here's what we're going to do. First, we're going to get rid of fact checkers and replace them with community notes similar to X, starting in the US. After Trump first got elected in 2016, the legacy media wrote nonstop about how misinformation was a threat to democracy. We tried in good faith to address those concerns without becoming the arbiters of truth. But the fact checkers have just been too politically biased and have destroyed more trust than they've created, especially in the US. So over the next couple of months, we're going to phase in a more comprehensive community notes system. Second, we're going to simplify our content policies and get rid of a bunch of restrictions on topics like immigration and gender that are just out of touch with mainstream discourse. What started as a movement to be more inclusive has increasingly been used to shut down opinions and shut out people with different ideas, and it's gone too far. So I want to make sure.
All right, enough. We've heard enough.
Wow, man, I
heard
can't.
enough.
Oof, you turn it off just in time. This guy is just. I mean, this is the reptilian CEO that we were talking about at the beginning of the show. Listen, one of the things that struck me is that he has the gall to say that he had made a good faith effort to address these issues. There's no good faith in censoring. You don't censor in good faith. And this mea culpa that he's got, excuse me, it's just, I mean, it has there's no realness to it. I don't think that there's anybody that believes that he regrets it. What he regrets is choosing the wrong side. And maybe, just maybe, Zuckerberg is no different than just a common prostitute on the street who only cares about making money. Maybe he's not some kind of crazy leftist zealot. That just means that this guy is an actual reptilian who has no warm blood cells. It's all cold-blooded, financial, profit-driven kind of behaviors to censor the American people. He has to pay a price. And he has paid a price in the sense that anybody who sees him would probably, let's say in the beginning of Facebook, everybody was like, oh my God, it's Zuckerberg. And then at the end, it's like, oh, what a dirtbag. You know, like there's that guy, there's the censor guy. And history is not going to view him kindly, I believe.
No.
And as opposed to like Elon Musk. Let's say people were split 50-50 on Elon Musk, or let's say they were 80-20, I don't know. But after he bought Twitter and he turned it to free speech, it may not have changed. It may have gotten worse. It may have gotten better. But the people who believe in Elon Musk today are people who believe that he did something really extraordinarily good. Nobody believes that this little speech made him better. Everybody's like, oh, I don't trust that guy.
Yep.
And I don't trust what he's saying. And who knows? And do you believe he's even going to be honest about it? Is he really going to like roll back this stuff? Maybe he fired all these fact checkers, and he should have.
Yeah.
Maybe he's genuine in his mea culpa. But the fact is, you and I have been censored on Facebook left and right.
Yes.
We had a show taken down right in the middle of a broadcast. You know, how are you going to win back the people who, you know, we talk to when we talk about our opinion of Zuckerberg? I don't think anybody's ever going to trust him again.
No.
You know,
and this is the thing, John. This is a guy who funded opponent. You know, funded Kamala. You know, he's funded. You know, spent $400 million against President Trump. Now Trump won with a mandate from the people, an obvious mandate. He's changing his tune. Now he wants to get rid of the fact checkers. He wants to be more fair. He wants to allow more conversations and not go after content like he used to. We'll see. We'll see. But like you said, John, if Trump had lost and Kamala had won, I don't think there would have been any changes coming down the pike for Instagram
Yeah,
or
there
Facebook.
would have. There would have been changes. They would have clamped down on us.
Yeah.
They would have clamped down even harder. They would have doubled down on their censorship. They would have screwed people like you and me who have these little shows going on. They would have completely shut us all down. Anybody who spoke differently. We still talk about COVID, right, being a sham. They would have shut us down for that. In fact, if I remember correctly, that's I think that's probably the reason it got us shut down is what we were saying about COVID. I don't know.
Yeah.
So, I mean, but it was purely based on opinions. That's why we got shut down.
Well, speaking about COVID, John, ABC News is now warning against a quademic. A quademic, not just a pandemic. It's a quademic this winter. Right on time, of course. And here they are hyping this up.
People are terming the quademic of infectious diseases hitting hard this season. And joining us now is Dr. Stephanie Widmer with more on how to stay healthy. Doctor, good morning to you. It's great to have you.
Thank you guys for having me. So I guess let's talk about these viral syndromes.
And I want to jump right into some of the numbers here as we get into it, because the flu, COVID, RSV, norovirus making the rounds this winter. RSV cases higher than they were this time of year last year. 35 states reporting high or very high levels of respiratory illness. And the CDC estimates that there have been at least 5.3 million illnesses, 63,000 hospitalizations, and 2,700 deaths from the flu so far this season.
Wow.
So we just mentioned earlier, people calling this a quademic. Is that really an accurate description? And how would you explain what's really going on?
So this term quademic, it refers to the convergence of high levels of, just like you said, flu, COVID, RSV, and this norovirus. And there are multiple factors at play here. Different social, environmental, biologic factors that are causing these numbers that, you know, in New York, it's not unprecedented to see high levels of viral syndromes, especially during the winter when there's indoor crowding, increased travel, lots of different gatherings. But there are other factors at play here, such as viral evolution, new strains that emerge, lots of different things.
Doctor, how do we know what we have? Because so many of these symptoms can be so similar.
So that's completely true. So fever, chills, headache, body aches, fatigue, things like that are pretty much across the board with different viral syndromes. Norovirus is a little bit different. On the other hand, that presents primarily with GI symptoms, vomiting, diarrhea, abdominal pain, aches, things like that. But that's not necessarily unique to norovirus. You can have some overlap with the flu. So based on symptoms alone, it's not always entirely possible to tell which viral syndrome you have.
Wow.
You know, doctor,
Well, that helps, right? That helps, right, John?
Yeah. These guys can.
You know, you're going to feel sick, and it's
man.
going to feel like any other sickness you've ever had, but it could be 10 times worse just because we say so.
Yeah. I mean, these guys are a joke. Nobody's buying it. Nobody's buying it. The fact is, the same people are afflicted by flus, colds, COVID, whatever it is. The older you are, you know, the more it impacts you. If they're trying to get people to wear masks again, that'll never happen. If what you're trying to do is shut down our businesses, that's never going to happen again. It's just, I don't see there being an iota of will to do that again. The only reason that people would are like the scum of our communities that just don't want to work. All right.
Well, you know, John, we still have that 0.5% of the population that's still walking around with a mask right now. So you will still get that 0.5% of the population and probably another 0.5% of the population. But you're not going to get the majority. You're never going to see masks at the store that people are buying up by the dozen to protect themselves from any of this BS.
Yeah, I mean it's pretty gross that they're trying to do this again. No, I think that they're just checking. You know, of course they're going to check because that's what they did. They made billions and billions and billions of dollars during COVID, shutting everybody down and capitalizing on the situation. So, you know, I mean, let's look at the salaries and the shareholders. It's going to be all pharmaceutical companies.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. We know that to be true. It's just another scam, and they want to keep us on our toes. That's basically what they want.
That's not going to happen.
No.
We're on our toes, believe me, but it's against them.
Well, wouldn't you know, John, the first lawsuit relating to this New Year's Day terror attack, this law firm alleges negligence by the New Orleans Police Department, and it has to do with those archers, those barriers, those metal barriers that are supposed to keep cars from driving down Bourbon Street that were not up on New Year's Eve. And here's a video explaining those barriers from the police spokeswoman.
What you see behind us is what we call hardening the target. So we have brought in heavy trucks. You will see when you go down Bourbon, you will see yellow, what we call archers, and they're along the sidewalk. And that would be to be preventive. If someone had, or if this particular terrorist went around up on the sidewalk, that's what that would do. Okay? It would slow that down for anyone who thought that they could breach our targets. And so those are some of the main differences we are done in the quarter. Also, you are going to see an incredibly large presence of police. And we are, though, confident, but we want our community to feel confident.
All right, well, enough of her, but real quick, let me show you what these archers look like. These are the things that we're supposed to protect cars from going down the street that were not out. Those are the yellow archers right there. That's what they look like.
And they were not. They were not out.
No. So this is why they are facing their first lawsuit, probably the first of many, because they didn't do what they were supposed to do.
That wasn't all that wasn't out. Not just the archers. They also have these retractable pylons that are in the street.
Yes.
And those were not up.
Yeah.
I first of all, you can just tell the way that this woman is speaking. I mean, thank God that's not an elected position, because she wouldn't make it. I mean, who is that? Joe Biden's older sister? That is ridiculous. Listen,
that is
law
the New
enforcement
Orleans
is not
police
for the weary.
Spokeswoman.
Listen, that's not the spokeswoman. She's like the chief of police or something. You know, what the heck is you? I mean, listen, this is what DEI does. They ruin everything. DEI ruins everything it touches. Okay, just like the county commissioners in Osceola County, everything it touches gets ruined. So I mean, it's terrible. It's just terrible.
And we're absolutely praying for those families in New Orleans that had lost a loved one due to the negligence of the city of New Orleans to do their job and their duty, and this idiot who drove his truck down Bourbon Street. We talked about this story, John, last year, if you can believe it or not. On this show last year, we talked about this same story, and for 2 years in a row now, UHaul saw their largest loss with California customers, with massive numbers of one-way customers leaving the state. And here's the story.
The company has over 23,000 locations, and they say that does help us get a broader sense of migration trends. So take a look, because in the new report, UHaul found that California once again ranked dead last in the country in its growth rankings. For the 5th straight year, the Golden State saw the largest net loss of one-way U-Haul customers leaving the state. Now, remember earlier this year, the governor highlighted that the previous year, the state actually saw a net increase in population growth. However, bigger picture, this trend is in line with the longer-term forecast from the state's Department of Finance, which projects that fewer people will be living in California in 2060 than lived here in 2020. And it's in line with census data that shows that since 2000, California has experienced its slowest rate of growth since its formation.
So, in other words, what the guy is telling you there is that Gavin Newsom is full of crap, all right, without saying that he's full of crap. They're saying, well, you know, the numbers don't really show that. The numbers show that. This is what's really happening. They said it themselves, John. 5th straight year. Like I said, we talked about this last year. California is losing people, and it's not due to the story we're going to talk about at the end of the show. but it's due to Gavin Newsom and the liberals that are running the state of California. They're running it into the ground.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, there might be a worth running state, a state that is run even worse than California, if you can imagine it. But it's not as consequential as California because there's not as many people. There's not as much demand on the services. It's like, imagine if our county commission was doing everything here in Osceola County was doing everything that they do in Orlando or in Miami. It would fall apart. You would have havoc. You'd have chaos and, gnashing of teeth. So it's the same, like, look at Michigan. Michigan is utterly ridiculous, right?
Yeah.
Look at Detroit, same thing. But you look at Los Angeles and you look at California, and it's because there's so much more demand on the government to do its job and interference to do its job, right? As a byproduct of the demand for it to do its job, it's just overwhelming. And so they can't get anything right. There's no water in the hydrants. There's no services. There's nothing that they can do right. So yeah, who wants to be there? And on top of that, they're attacking your family.
Yeah.
You have to go along with their ideological views. Or it's like living in worse than Germany or worse than in the UK right now, where you can get arrested for a Facebook post.
Terrible place. For more reasons than one. And I probably should have grouped these stories together and put them together. But this story kind of broke recently. Maybe I can just go to that one right now, and we'll leave the other one for last. But yes, there's another reason to leave California, John, and it's due to these Palisade fires in Southern California. The Palisades is on fire. It continues to get worse. It's unbelievable.
It's just an immeasurable tragedy. It's terrible.
Yeah, and then we have some video. This is one of the videos right here of the burning that's happening. It just unbelievable fire going through LA and through the Palisades. And we have another video of the aftermath of some of this fire. Look at this. It looks like Terminator 2. It really does. Look at this.
Yeah, it looks like a war zone. Absolutely.
Like a bomb was dropped. So,
right here. This is
the thoughts that go through my head when I see this, I don't want to say over the air, but I do feel sorry for the innocent people that have lost everything in this fire, because that really sucks. But
yeah, absolutely.
When I see a fire going through LA, I don't know.
I mean, it's like a Sodom and Gomorrah thing. I don't believe in karma. I don't think it's good to wish on it. It doesn't matter what your political views are. This is terrible. And those are families, and they have kids, and this is a horrific tragedy. It should never happen, and it didn't have to happen. I mean, you'll see, go back. Trump warned California about things like this happening. They're not managing the land. They're not managing the resources. They're not managing their services. And like I said, California. California is exactly the model that Osceola County, Florida is on. It's the same path.
It's funny
if you were to scale.
John, it's funny that you mentioned that, because you're right. President Trump has discussed this multiple times. He did it on Joe Rogan's podcast when he was on there, and we actually have a clip from that. Let's hear him.
They said, we have no water. I said, do you have a drought? No, we don't have a drought. I said, why don't you have no water? Because the water isn't allowed to flow down. It's got a natural flow from Canada all the way up north. Water, more water than they could ever use. And in order to protect a tiny little fish, the water up north gets routed into the Pacific Ocean. Millions and millions of gallons of water gets poured. I could have water for all of that land. Water for your forests. Your forests are dry as a bone.
Yeah.
Okay?
Dangerous.
That water could be routed. You could have everything. Oh, not only dangerous, billions of dollars a year they spend on forest fires. And, there's a case with the environment. They're not allowed to rake their forests because you're not allowed to touch it. And all they have to do is clean their forest, meaning rake it up, get rid of the leaves, get rid of, leaves that are sitting there for 5 years. And
we'll certainly get rid of the dead fall.
And get rid of the trees that are fallen.
Yeah.
And there you go. I mean, if anyone is looking for a finger to point, you can point it at Governor Gavin Newsom and the California legislators. They're the ones that you can blame for going on there right.
I mean, Newsom essentially has blood and destruction on his hands for his entire term as governor. Every fire that takes place, is his responsibility. Every time they don't have anything to provide to their citizens because they have chosen a woke ideology, a absolute crazed ideology. They'll steal your kids they'll rip your child from your arms, right? If you refuse to them a chemical castration, they are happy to tear a child, rip a child from the womb, but they won't protect a child with proper governmental services like a firefighter or decent hospital or anything like that. There's no government services in California that are of high quality that they just don't sustain it.
Yeah.
They don't bother to maintain it because they want to have these crazy programs instead. And they've spent billions and billions and billions and billions of tens of billions of dollars trying to address homeless problems, and they haven't resolved it one case of homelessness. I mean, it's by design, in my opinion. It's by design. And then what do? They ask the federal government. Then they ask people from Florida. They ask people from North Carolina. They ask people from Georgia. They ask people from Alabama, from Arkansas, from Michigan, from New York. Will you guys please cover this? Will you guys cover this? We need $500 billion to address it. And by the way, they just sent another $500 billion. They're trying to send $500 billion to Ukraine. Okay, but they don't have water in their fire hydrants. It's just a giant mess. And these people, at some point, we can't have qualified immunity to the point where somebody is so ridiculously bad. Somebody behaves so moronically bad that they can't be prosecuted. It's essentially fraud. It's like lying on your resume. You said you could do this job. And now hundreds or thousands or millions of people, like in the case of California, are either losing their lives, being victimized by crime, at some point there has to be a consequence. You can't just get rich as a politician and then leave everyone else screwed and not have a consequence to pay. We can't live in a country like that. Before, you used to be tarred and feathered.
No.
That was the solution. You knew that the people in your neighborhood would come and get you. They would come and get you. They'd pour hot tar on you. They'd throw you on feathers. And then who knows? And I'm not calling for violence of any type. I'm just saying there used to be a consequence, and there should be one now. It's financial. There should be one financial. There should be one that has to do with your freedom. If you should be able to be prosecuted. If you're the worst of your type, you should be able to be prosecuted.
Absolutely. All right, John. So over in New York City, Governor Hochul said it's real safe in the subways, but right now there's a manhunt underway for a suspect wanted for multiple stabbings on the New York subway this week. Here's that story.
I mean, I would echo it. Safety is paramount. I mean, I cannot tell you how much of an issue this is amongst station agents, and all of us who work here. It's an issue. We're concerned about our safety when we go out on the platforms. I mean, if you ride the subway, and I'm sure mostly everybody in this room has been on this subway at some point or during the week, and you see the different things that go on, the mental illness, the homelessness, and all of that. If it's a risk to the public.
That's the guy right there, John, holding the knife that he uses to stab people. They got a good CCTV pic of him. Unbelievable. And like she just said, mental illness. We have a mental illness problem in this nation that's not being looked at. No one's really talking about it. And there's a prime example of it right there.
You know what? Here's the thing. I think that mental illness is a tragedy in this country. It's not being addressed. Before, we used to have like mental hospitals, and before that, we used to have insane asylums and institutions. And now what we have is let them be homeless, and what we'll do is we'll just arrest them after they kill somebody or victimize somebody. And we have to do something to combat this. We can't just ignore the fact that people are sleeping in the street. That's the true pandemic. That's the true epidemic, right? And mental health is just, it's not something that we can, listen, we have a whole bunch of soldiers that are coming home from war after 20 years, more than 20 years at war. Over the past 10 years, a whole bunch of soldiers that come back, and you're going to find a whole bunch of them on the street because the military does really a crappy job transitioning you out of the military, after war. And so you're going to have all these problems. And now, after 20 years of war, you're going to have trained killers coming out that may have problems. The government didn't do its job to transition them out properly, emotionally, mentally. And now you're going to have possibly, where people who are trained for violence. I mean, we're creating this government, this facade of a government, which its only job is to protect the American citizen. Its only job is to make sure that we have the opportunity, the God-given opportunity to achieve our pursuit of happiness, right? They're not doing that. And I don't know why. I mean, this is why Trump ran. He was so frustrated by the fact that the government was failing. It doesn't matter. Republican, Democrat, Republican, Democrat, Republican, Democrat. People have lost faith in the entire situation. People don't care about party anymore. All right. We just want somebody who's going to tweet to us what's really going on. And that was Trump. And that's what the movement is. And so hopefully he'll put an end to this also. I think if he can get somebody on his side and to win the next term and I don't know if it's the Republican Party or if it's a third party or what it's going to be, because I'm quickly losing faith in the Republican Party as well. Not on the federal level. I think that there's some heroes out there, but when you look at our state, there's also some heroes in the state. But look at what the Evan Powers doing in Florida. Horrendous. He's attacking other Republicans and he's trying to be friends with the Democrats, right? They're recruiting rhinos. They're recruiting ghost candidates. It's horrendous. And so it's hard to have faith in that system. I just wish somebody would come up, and what America needs right now is more George Washingtons, more John Adams. We need these patriots to come up, and those are people who have vested something. And what they have vested isn't a career. What they have vested is a love of country and the pursuit of happiness for their own families and for their neighbors. And when we see that happen, maybe our country will start going somewhere. I think this is just a transitionary state. And we are still in a very precarious, very dangerous time in our country. And I think that's going to happen, even be just as dangerous when Trump leaves office in 4 years.
And it's a shame what we see happening within our own Florida Republican Party. And, we still have a lot of rhinos, a lot of miscreants, for lack of a better term, to get rid of in Tallahassee.
Absolutely.
Within our own party, where we can reach a point where we don't feel that way about the party anymore.
I mean, it's sad that right now we're talking about a New York governor who's lying to her people, saying that the subways are safe because they can't do anything about it because they're so feckless. I mean, you can't have, you can have a bad government. You can have bad leaders. You can have dumb people like Ricky Booth who don't know what they're doing or don't even know where to wipe. Okay. But you can't have a governor who's going to lie to an entire state and allow people to get stabbed in the subways because they don't have an effective police force. And it can be because look at what Rudy Giuliani did. New York used to be like everybody used to see us. I'm not going to go to New York. I don't want to get murdered. Rudy Giuliani came in and he fixed the entire state. He fixed the city. So, I mean, like, it can happen. It can be done. And I just, I mean, we can't allow these people that are purely malfeasant to destroy our country and our communities. And then once we deal with those people, which is the Democrats, essentially, for the most part, once we get rid of them, we can move on to the people that are just dumb or wrong, and I hope that's where we're at right now. And this point of transition in our government is just, it's incredibly, if you're a political junkie like we are, it's fun to watch. And at the same time, it's scary.
Yeah. Well, John, for the final story of the night, the most outrageous governmental story that we could find, over in Macomb County, North Carolina, they have officially confirmed that they will not be waiving or reducing property taxes for homes that no longer exist due to Hurricane Helene. Listen to this.
Reminder, today is the last day to pay your property tax bill before it becomes delinquent. Please note that North Carolina law does not permit property tax waivers or exceptions for natural disasters, including Hurricane Helene. For assistance, contact the tax department at 828-250-4910, or you can visit them in person at 94 Cox Avenue in downtown Asheville. Parking is available across the street for free. If you have property damage,
Wow.
please make sure you have reported it via the reporting form on our website at buncombecounty.org. For frequently asked questions about the tax bills and hurricane-related tax information, you can visit buncombecounty.org.
Buncombe County. You know what? Enough of that. We didn't need to hear any more of that. We heard the major part of that. You lost everything in this hurricane. Too bad. We still want our money. We still want our tax money. It's just outrageous. Outrageous.
I bet you that she's not the lady who's in charge of that, right? Because how often is the person that they send up to the cameras to say those things actually responsible for that decision?
Right.
But you know who he is? They're state legislators.
Yeah.
How in the hell can North Carolina state legislators not meet for an emergency session right now and change the state statute to allow for an acceptance here? Right? An exception. How can they not? You would think that that would be the first thing on their minds. They have to be reminded. I mean, what is going on in North Carolina? North Carolina is another like kind of Florida state where they got a ton of rhinos and they don't know what they're doing and they can't do it. And this is shocking. It's heartbreaking for those people. I'm sure that these politicians are going to pay for it big time. Try to collect on that. The county, you know what? The county, I bet you the county can just pay say, we're going to waive it. We're going to waive it. I mean, okay, state statute might not say that you have to, but I guarantee you that that it can be waived. There's no way that they can't do it. They can't, it's just, or why not go assess it right now?
Yeah.
The property appraiser can go assess their land right now and say what it's worth right now and allow for some kind of code that says that during an emergency, they go and they assess it the day after the emergency. Like you could do something.
It's
It just takes the
absolutely
will.
within their power to waive these taxes.
They can do something.
Property taxes. They can do it. They can do it. They just
They can
don't
do
want
something.
to. They don't want to.
It's
They
just
don't want to
sad.
take that loss, even though those people lost everything. The county commissioners there said, no, we're not going to take that loss. Sometimes we have to look outside our own county, realize how bad others have it. Although I'm sure that our Osceola County commissioners would do the exact same thing.
They would. Forget it. They wouldn't do the same exact thing. You know why? You know why it would be a little bit different in Osceola County? Because they have so much. They're so stacked with cash in Osceola County that for them it would be a good way to buy votes because these guys are more corrupt.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
They are looking for opportunities to buy votes. They would buy the votes and they would be able to get rid of some of this money that they don't even know how to spend, like Brewster's million opportunity here to spend that much. So, I don't believe they would do the wrong thing for the right they would do the right thing for the wrong reasons, or
It is
or they
true.
would do
We
the wrong
have
thing
seen
for the wrong
them
reasons.
do multiple things to try and buy votes from the voters here
That's
in
all they
Osceola
do.
County. That's what they
Yep.
do. They do.
Absolutely.
All right, John. Well, that is it. That's all we got for tonight. We're ending at an hour and 43 minutes.
Wow. Well, thank you so much for joining
show.
us. Our second show in our third season. We love doing it. We're grateful for you watching these past couple of shows. We've had a ton of people watching, more than we have in the past. We're really grateful for the growth that we're experiencing. So please like and share. We'd like to continue growing. Follow us on Twitter. I'm at John Unsanctioned. My good friend over here, Tom Lord. This way. Tom Lord over there is at Citizen Tom Lord. Follow the show, like and share wherever you find it. Thank you. God bless you. We'll see you next week or in a couple of days for Unsanctioned Florida.
Florida, big Florida show.
Well, I was entertained, to be honest.
I
I think it is rich beyond measure. The fact that a school board member that has tens of millions of dollars of conflict of interest before this board has the courage to come up here and talk about anyone's behavior. If anyone should be ashamed of themselves, sir, it should be you.
And I'm in favor of you being able to speak your mind no matter what. That's how we get, remember when we were kids, right? And you had a problem with somebody and then your dad would kick you out to go fight with that kid and then you shake hands and then you go home and then you become friends. Disgust when they're trying to, take this word and give it meaning that it doesn't have. Our entire country needs to go through a fasting. You see all of these new age hippies, right? They're constantly fasting. They're doing starvation diets, or they won't eat for this, or what is it called? Like some kind of
intermittent fasting. It's not just us, and not just fans of President Trump, MAGA Republicans. We're not the only ones that see it.